Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Twameva Mata Cha Pita, Twameva Bandhus Cha Sakha, Twameva Vedya Dravidam, Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Makrarupena Sanstita, Namastasyai, Namastasyai, Namastasyai Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstita, Namastasyai, Namastasyai, Namastasyai Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Sanstita, Namastasyai, Namastasyai, Namastasyai Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Sanstita, Namastasyai, Namastasyai, Namastasyai Namo Namaha. So that first chant is 3 verses from the Guru Stotram, the hymn to the Guru, which I do out of reverence to my teacher, Swami Chinmayananda. And the second is invoking the Mother Goddess in our study tonight. So tell us again where we are. Uday, do you know?
Yeah, the first verse on page 298, 62b, 64a.
All right. So we've been discussing samadhi. And the main point to take away from our discussion so far is that for the yogi who understands what's going on, there are moments of samadhi all the time. I had dinner last night with Vishwa and Setu. And Vishwa is one of the unusual Indian people who likes Western opera. And she went to hear the Jonas Kaufman recital that I was at, I guess it's about a month ago, maybe 5-6 weeks ago. And she was up high, I was down in the second row. But she remarked on the fact that after he would finish some of these songs, there was just this thunderous silence. And she said, it felt like everybody was tuned up. Then the applause would come. And she got it. Here's one of those moments. This scripture didn't talk about it, but it's what I call aesthetic theology. What is it in us that finds something beautiful? And there again is another taste of the divine for those who have eyes to see. So yeah, it stopped people's minds. So again, we had these two terms, prakasha, vimarsha. Prakasha, luminosity, pure awareness. Vimarsha, deliberation in the mind, thoughting. He says, any time the mind is free from this deliberation, this vimarsha, when the mind unknows, that's samadhi. What is the point of samadhi? It's not just to get high and feel good. In the Kundalini yoga traditions, this can be a trap. People do all the breathing, the pranayama, and stuff like that. You get screaming high. But getting high is not the goal. Technically speaking, we can call that at times a jada samadhi. Jada means inert. Because what samadhi is intended to do is reveal to us our essential nature. So we had what we call paroksha jnanam and aparoksha jnanam. Paroksha jnanam is indirect knowledge. When we hear from the teacher, hear from the scriptures. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the thoughts, you are the witnessing consciousness, which is the same as Brahman. I am Atma Brahma, this self is Brahman. Then we have aparoksha jnana, direct experience in those sacred moments when the mind is thunders to a stop, with the attentive faculty turned inward. You have the direct experience that the sense of individuality, the ego sense, jiva bhavana, it just melts, it disappears. It's nothing real. Then when the mind returns from it, it goes, oh, I'm not a person. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I'm that ground of being. That pratya vijnana, moment of recognition. To simplify it, Swamiji's spiritual algebra, M, mind, equals A, awareness, plus TF. Let's erase TF and let's use V for vimarsha, deliberation. Mind equals awareness plus vimarsha, deliberation. If we take the V and we move it to the other side of the equal sign, we got to make it negative. Mind minus the flow of thought. Mind minus vimarsha. Mind minus vikalpa. Many different words. Equals. All right. Ganesh, will you help us out with the next verse?
Takramam te vidhasyami brahmantha shrudu samyatah ananta janma sukritaihi devata bhakti prapyate taya samradhya suchiram tatprasad tatprasadat tatprasadat tatah param vairasyam bhoga vrindeshu tatparatvam cha prapnuyat. Brahmana, I shall tell you the manner of attaining to that state. Listen with controlled mind. Devotion to the deity is obtained by the good deeds done in infinite number of lives. Worshipping for a very long time with that devotion, one can obtain thereafter, by the grace of the deity, tastelessness or indifference towards the multitude of worldly enjoyments and exclusive devotion to it, or the non-dual reality.
So here, what the Tatra is saying to Ram is this is Parashurama. This is not Rama from the Ramayana. What he's saying here is he's summing up. Hariom, is there someone out there? Just noise. Okay. So the great gift of the human birth. And by human, we don't mean just running around on 2 legs as opposed to 4. The deeper implication, being human, means I begin to ask questions. What's the meaning of life? What's it all about? So after becoming human, then we perhaps begin a spiritual journey. We may do Kundalini yoga. We may worship the mother. Chant Lalita Sahasranam initiated in the Sri Vidya. We may do puja. We may go to church. After many lifetimes of purifying the head and the heart, then we have the punya, the great merit, to attract into our lives a woman or a man of wisdom. Who can show us the awakened state of mind. I've been studying for the first time the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. For all these years, never been through them. And I'm at a section now where Patanjali says, as at one level of our spiritual unfoldment, we need an object of meditation. You got to be careful what object you pick to make sure that it's sattvic. He says one of the best is the guru. He says if you pick the guru, make sure you don't pick a charlatan, pick somebody who really is a Satguru. And meditate on that form. And then there's a gross meditation and a subtle meditation. And I can remember when everything shifted for me in my relationship with Swamiji. And it was no longer about the slender, tall, regal man in the orange robes. I started to tune in to that emptiness, thunderous sigh, that's what Swamiji is. Of course, in the end, I knew it was a trick. It was my mind abiding in the self. That's all it was. This is the great gift of a real teacher. They can come. Meet me there, Swamiji used to say. Now, self-realization. You either see it or you don't. You either know you are that ground of being, the partless Brahman, or you don't. How deeply the mind can revel in the self. That's like trying to count to the highest number. There's no end. No end to how rich and blissful that can be. All right, next verse.
Vairagya tatparattvabhyam shraddhaya chapi sangatah sadgurum prapya tatpropya vaipyadvaitam parampadam etadjnanam paroksham vai hyastyadvaitam iti hayat. Associated with indifference to worldly enjoyments and exclusive devotion to the self, and also faith and going to a worthy guru. He knows through his statements the non-dual supreme state. This knowledge.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
This knowledge is indeed indirect, which is thus understood. The non-dual reality surely exists.
So this knowledge is indirect, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we develop a dispassion towards worldly things. How? Never through suppression. It doesn't work. It'll all come out sideways if you do. We let go of the world through insight. By examining the world and seeing its inherent doshas, defects. For some of us, it means getting our hearts broken over and over and over again. The teacher says, how's that working out for you? The more we struggle and try to make it happen, more suffering we have. Or ambition in the world, I'm going to climb the ladder of success, I'm going to be a titan of the industry. Knock yourself out. How's that working out for you? So there's a subtle difference between two words in Sanskrit, sannyasa and tyaga. Sannyas means renunciation. When we kind of choose to leave stuff, tyaga means abandonment. And my classic metaphor, when you were a kid, if you had a tricycle, then when you were old enough, your parents got you a two-wheeled bicycle. You learned to ride it. Finally, the training wheels come off. Down the streets. what happens to your desire for the tricycle? Gone. So we begin to develop this abandonment of the world, when more and more we can revel in the sound. And then at the end of this particular shloka, through our study of the scriptures, by meeting a guru, through our examination of the inherent defects of the material world, I believe it. In Vivekachudamani, Shankara says in the lead up to the qualifications of a fit student, who can argue for the scriptures and refute arguments against them. This is not something you do on Facebook. Where does this argument take place? You know, where does it take place?
In the mind.
In your own mind, yes. Because the world will come to you and say, you're crazy. You're doing spiritual bypass. You got to work out all the stuff in the world. Go for it. You know, you're just avoiding. You get all these things. And so our minds have to go back, read the scriptures, read the stories of the great saints. If we have the merit to be able to be with a teacher who says it's true, it's true, it's true. This builds our faith. All right, next verse.
Tato vicharayet samyak advaitam svatmadaivatam apapadhya sutai kaistu samshayamstena nashayet. Afterwards, he should properly investigate the deity, who is the non-dual self, and establishing it by proper reasoning, should remove his doubts through that.
So the deity is not out there. It is your very self. And what is the process of knowing myself? Atma vichara. Vicharena, by means of investigation. Who am I? Principal technique is subject-object discrimination. See the table? No, you're not a table. You're the one looking at the table. Oh, okay. Can you hear the traffic? No, you're not the traffic. You're the one hearing the traffic. Oh, okay. Now let's go to the body. Take a deep breath. Do you not know the breath in the body? Do you not know the changes in the body? We were talking about your time in Punjab when you were 6 to 11, you said?
11 to 17.
11 to 17. What happened to that body?
All of those cells have changed.
Yeah. You are not the body. You are the knower of the body. Now, let's go to the level of the prana. If you're doing Kundalini yoga, I'm not saying this is bad. The energy rises, you can feel it. Chakras start buzzing and but do you not know the movement of the Kundalini in the body, the movement of the prana? You are not the prana, you are the knower of the prana. All the emotions, joy, sorrow, enthusiasm, boredom, etc. Whatever this wonderful palette of the human heart, whatever you're feeling, do you not know the feeling? You were not your feelings. Now to the realm of thought. Thoughts go by like your hand in front of your face. You are not your thoughts. You are the knower of your thoughts. Now in a mind made quiet, see if you can notice who or what sees the thoughts and the space between. See, there's nothing there. Yet that nothingness shines as Sat, Chit, Ananda, pure existence, pure awareness. And the fountainhead of all bliss. This process is Atma Vichara. Then we inquire into this world. What is this world and how has it come about? And we've had all these stories in the scripture that the world is not created. The world comes about as the sankalpa of the infinite. It's nothing but vibration held together by thought. It is like a dream. Remember the story we had of the Manichuda who got caught up in the mountain with the Muniputra, with the son of the sage. So this world too, in the end, is nothing but Brahman. This is what's called vichara, investigation. We let go of our false ideas. We let go of these superimpositions. Next verse.
Jim, I have a question.
Please.
The verse which we just read has a specific line where he says he should properly investigate the deity. So what is, how does that happen specifically? What does he mean?
But what is it followed by? Properly investigate the deity, and then what's the next line?
Who is the non-dual self? And
Yes.
establishing, Okay.
That is the deity, the non-dual self.
Okay. That I can connect
That's
that with
the
what you
meaning.
just said. Okay.
You see what I mean?
Right.
At a level, if we're at the level where we are identified with the body, listen carefully. A personal God is as real as your body. A personal God is as real as your ego. So if you are at a stage in your spiritual unfoldment where you think you are your body, you're identified with that, you think you're a person, then hang on to the feet of the Lord. But if your mind has become predominantly sattvic, and you can drop the mind, you can unknow. Then the form of the God and the individuality both disappear. Does that make sense, Uday?
Yes, Jim. I just want to say that speaking specifically for myself, I feel that my mind oscillates between these two kind of states. So I guess, okay.
So do not let philosophical inconsistency be a barrier.
Right. So do what is appropriate at that time, right?
It depends on where we are. I always say the yogi wants to have his carpet bag of tricks. You want to find the practice that is appropriate for your current mind state. If the mind is predominantly rajasic or even tamasic, worship the Lord, worship the deity with a form, worship the guru. But
right.
if your mind is predominantly sattvic, then you can let go of that. But what doesn't work, you're upset, you're triggered, you're totally identified with your body, and you go, it's not real and nothing's happening. It's not real and nothing's happening. That's nonsense. You see what I mean?
Yes, Jim. Actually, this thing of consistency is really an unnecessary mental block to keep holding on to.
Yeah. Your mind certainly isn't consistent.
Yeah. Although it likes the idea of consistency.
Well, it is consistent if you understand what to do when you are body identified, what to do when you're able to drop that.
Right. That's useful, Jim. Thank you.
Think of it this way. When you're driving your car, Newtonian physics is perfectly appropriate.
Right.
If you're doing quantum mechanics, it's not appropriate. But it doesn't make Newtonian physics invalid.
Yeah.
Quantum physics is perfectly useless if you don't put on the brakes when you're ready to smash into a big truck. Oh, it's all just space. I'll just pass right through because it's all a probability of anything. It's nonsense.
Crash bang.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't want to you want to use what's useful. You want to take up the practice that will bring your mind into quiet, into peace. And remember, a personal God is as real as your ego.
Right.
Even in the most subtle Upanishad, the Mandukya, when we do the exegesis on Tattvamasi,
Mm-hmm.
physical body, microcosm, Jagat, macrocosm, subtle body, mind and feelings, microcosm, total mind, macrocosm, causal body, my personal bundle of vasanas. And what does Gaudapada say about the macrocosm, causal body?
Ishvara.
Ishvara.
Mm.
There it is.
Mm.
And at the core of your being, aham. And the ground of being of the whole universe, Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. Very good question, Uday.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, next verse, please. This making any sense to you at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
अथ निश्चितमात्माख्य तत्त्वं द्वयम् आदरात् तत्त्वम् अद्वयमादरात् अनुध्यायेदा पारोक्षं हठ वृत्ताया वृत्त्यापि यत्नतः. Then he should meditate on that non-dual true principle called the self, which has been ascertained through careful attention till direct realization, even by the method of hatha yoga, like breath control, diligently.
So, whatever methodology you are intuitively led to do that will help you exhaust vasana. So, for example, one of the frames, if you're doing Kundalini yoga, I can't remember if they used to use this language. We're going back close to 50 years here. But when you do the pranayama, when you do the various exercises, do they call them kriyas?
Yeah.
Yes. So kriya can mean a cleansing. It comes from the same root, kri, to make or to do. But what they do is they vacuum out, they clean out the various sanskaras and vasanas in the subtle body. Is that how it was explained to you?
As a cleansing?
Yeah.
Yeah. The way that I've always related to it is there's a completeness to it, to the set of exercises that the kriya kind of embodies.
But what are the exercises intended to do?
Yeah, to clear, to cleanse, to expand.
That's the point. So self-inquiry will do that. Intense meditation on the nature of the self is the fastest, but the most austere way. The path of jnana yoga is the most direct path. It is the fastest, but it takes intense mumukshutva. You gotta really want it and be willing to have intense vairagya, intense dispassion. And you may be led to go see a psychotherapist. You may be led to do PTSD trauma therapy, EMDR. You may be led to go do deep tissue body work like rolfing. You may be led to all sorts of places. I always say, trust your intuition. And this is all kind of wrapped up when here the scripture saying, even practices like hatha yoga and pranayama, stuff like that. Whatever we're intuitively led to do, and we'll find our way back ultimately to self-inquiry. The image I like to use, the mountain of truth, has many, many pathways up it. But at the top is the temple of truth. And it only has one door. And that is aham. When you find out who I is, then you will know who God is. You will know what the truth is. You will know what meaning is. All the various paths we take, each one of us has our own twists and turns. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Tato vikalpa vishaya. Tato vikalpa vishayi kritya dhyatam param padam samsara mula jnanam samsara mula majnanam nashayennatra samshayah. Then, making the supreme state meditated upon the object of thought construct, he can remove the ignorance which is the root of transmigratory existence.
Read the first part again. Your voice got soft. Say it again.
Then, making the supreme state meditated upon the object of thought construct, he can remove the ignorance which is the root of transmigratory existence. There is no doubt in this matter.
Yes.
Note.
So,
There's
ahead.
a somewhat long note. The supreme state, which is the object of meditation, is the non-dual self or pure consciousness which shines as I in the core of one's being. The teaching of the scriptures and the Guru is the identity of this I consciousness with the transcendental non-dual consciousness, holding on to the pure I consciousness, which has been indirectly known as identical with the true principle, is referred to as making the supreme state the object of thought construct. What is suggested is not the repetitive thought, I am that, or soham, but holding on to the mere I consciousness after having known indirectly from the Guru and the scriptures its identity with the supreme non-dual self or pure consciousness.
So here the whole book has resolved itself into the simple teaching of Ramana Maharshi. Koham, or in Tamil, Namyar. Who am I? So when we're in the world, when a thought arises, to whom did this thought occur to me? Who am I? When I get triggered and the mind is going, to whom did this feeling occur to me? Who am I? Keep doing our best to introvert the energy, the Shakti, the attentive faculty, keeping the mind tuned up. Not just for 10, 20 minutes in meditation, but all day. Now, if you can do it for 5 or 10 minutes while you're walking in the park, that's a good start. And we want to expand that. How do we do it? Shankara has this marvelous image. You want to have a mind like water flowing through a wicker basket, or the water energy. So whatever sensory data comes your way, trivial things, positive things. Oh, you're so handsome. Oh, you're such a beautiful lady. Oh, you're so successful. You are a loser. You're never going to be happy. Whatever it is, just let it pass. Don't let your ego hook on it. Simple, but not easy. This is not a practice that's done in your meditation seat. This is a practice that we do in the world. Why? Because my vasanas are the problem, the unconscious tendencies. What I draw to myself is the direct outpicturing of my vasanas. Frame it another way, the goddess will bring you exactly what's going to piss you off. And that's your opportunity to drop it. Don't worry, she's very patient. If you don't drop it, if you run, if you hide, if you fight, it's okay, Jim. I'll bring it back to you tomorrow or next week. Same issue, just the names and faces change. I can prove it to you. Who got upset this week? Anybody?
Me.
Tell me it's the first time you've had this feeling.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And the mother will keep bringing the situation back. My child, when are you going to learn? Let go. It's not worth it. Nothing in this world is important enough for you to lose your serenity. Drop it. How many ways can we say it? And I promise you, it will keep coming back until you do. Till we're empty. Many people will say, Jim, I get tuned up. I have no doubts about my essential nature, but I get out there in the world and I lose it. I forget who I am and I get upset and I get triggered and all that. Does this sound familiar? Shankara wrote about this state in v62b. One of my favorite verses is 267. And it says, even after realization of the truth, there exists a strong impression that one is the doer and the enjoyer, which is the cause for rebirth. Here, that doesn't mean I come back in another lifetime. It means I re-identify. This needs to be conscientiously rooted out through steady and continuous identification with the self. The annihilation of the vasanas here and now is considered liberation by the wise. How do I know I have vasana? I think I'm a person. It's real simple. If I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I have an attachment. I have an identification. Bas, that's all there is to it. And what's the solution? Tune up the mind. Stay empty. Do your duty in the world. But I promise you, if you let your mind extrovert into the world, all over the objects, worldly pleasure and suffering are the same thing. It's like the heads and the tails of a coin. You can't have one without the other. And in our foolishness, I try to hit all the green lights of life. That's like standing on the beach and saying, I only want the waves to come in, never to come out and go out. It's not going to happen. That's not the world. Listen very carefully. There's no problem with enjoyment. The problem is attachment and identification. All right, next verse.
Pakpadhyane nirvikalpe samadhyakhe param padam asadya paschat samsmritya pratyabhignanavan bhavet. Reaching the supreme state, the matured or fully developed meditation without thought constructs, which is called samadhi, and then remembering it as I am that, one would be possessed of recognition, pratyabhignana. Note, recognition or pratyabhignana is a combination of anubhava or direct perception and smriti or recollection. Direct perception happens in samadhi. Recognition or pratyabhignana extends also to the other states of the individualized consciousness or jiva.
So, this hand up here is like the self. This hand is like the mind. Waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, samadhi. Then when the mind returns, it goes, oh, I get it. There's nobody there. That's the moment of the awakening of the mind. Now, that gives you something real to work with. Now you need to become Stita Pragya, steady wisdom. Some people say, oh yes, Jim, 20 years ago I had a samadhi. Oh, but it was a memory. Now I'm just a miserable creature again. Don't be satisfied with that. Sthita prajna, steady wisdom, is when the vasanas have been annihilated. And then without effort, all the time, you know who you are. What Ramana Maharshi used to say, just like for the ordinary person, there is no effort to know that you have a human body. You don't wake up in the morning like a character in a Kafka book, thinking you're a cockroach, or a goat, or a cow, or a horse, or a pig. You don't have to go, I have a human body, I have a human body. You don't do a practice for that. It's knowledge, you know it. So also for the jnani, who has reached parampadam, the supreme state. She knows who she is. All the time. Next verse.
So Dvaitatma aham smiti tvaparoksha vikalpatah samsaramulam ajnanam sangam nashayati drutam. On account of direct perception becoming the object of thought construct, as I am that non-dual self, one immediately removes the ignorance, which is the root of transmigratory existence, with all its paths or effects.
So understand what our problem is. The problem is avidya. The problem is ignorance. Because of ignorance. And what makes the ignorance take place? Vasana. What is the first power of a vasana? Avarana Shakti. Veiling power, the non-apprehension of my self-nature. Where does this occur? In my mind. Then comes Vikshepa Shakti, the projecting power. What does the mind then project? I'm a person, there is a world separate from me, and I need to struggle towards a goal. It's like a hypnotic trance. It's like being in a nightmare. And then yoga says, wake up. Nothing to be fixed. Nothing to be achieved. Oh, I never was a person. How could I have thought that? So, next verse.
Dhyanasya paripako hi vikalpa parivarjanam vikalpo vividikhyati ekadha nirvikalpakah. The maturity or full development of meditation is indeed the giving up of thought constructs. Thought construct is manifold knowledge. Single knowledge is free from thought constructs.
So, does that mean the realized soul just sits there in samadhi, drooling in their diaper? No. What is the world? What is the mind? What is samsara? What is maya? What is my bondage? First, jiva bhavana. I think I'm a person. I think the world of name and form is separate from me. I have kartavya, the compulsion to fix either the world or myself. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, more, better, different, more, better, different. Just those three ideas. Those are the vikalpa that the scripture is talking about. Doesn't mean you won't, go to work, do your job, do the dishes, make your bed, take a walk, go to the gym. None of that is problematic. As long as you see it for what it is. And always remember, both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. Self is ever free. It's not yourself that gets liberated. Self is just fine. God has no problems. It's my stupid mind. What is my bondage? The deeply rooted conviction, because of ignorance, that I am the body. That is the bija vasana, the seed idea. What is liberation? The deeply rooted conviction in the mind. Not that I'm a Mahatma. Oh, I'm just the most enlightened person you can imagine. No. But I am Brahman. And no personal sense of self is real. And that comes not through vain repetition or reading books, but from direct experience, from samadhi. Any thoughts on this? All right, let's do one more. How many more in this chapter, by the way, Ganesh?
Quite a lot.
Okay, then we'll stop probably after this next one.
Anyanu vikalpo varjito bhavet vikalpe varjite panchan nirvikalpam swatashthitam. By the mere non-raising of another thought construct would be excluded. When thought construct is excluded, the state of absence of thought constructs occurs by itself. No, the effort needed is merely not imagining objects other than the self. This is holding on to the I thought or the I consciousness alone. This leads to the nirvikalpa state, where pure undivided consciousness alone shines, swallowing up the limited I consciousness. It is to be noted that the pure I thought or I consciousness is self-awareness without the mixture of the idea, I am this. In other words, it is pure I am. It is the precursor of the fully developed Nirvikalpa state, where pure, undivided consciousness alone shines.
Very good note. So again, it's not, this is a couch, that's a lamp. Those are not problematic vikalpa. It is, I am short, I am fat, I am successful, I am a failure, I am lovable, I am lonely, I am smart, listen carefully, I am maybe getting close to being enlightened. I am fill in the blank with anything. Any personal sense of self, you need to drop. Let's go back to what Shankara again says in Viveka Chudamani, his definition of vairagya. That desire, meaning we don't achieve it overnight, to give up all attachments to enjoyments gained through the senses, and the desire to give up all identification with any form of self, starting with the body, up to and including the form of Brahma, the creator. Oh, I want to be a powerful yogi. I want to levitate. I want to fly through the air. I want to live for 400 years. I want other people to know how holy I am. Maybe if I grow a long beard, they'll think I'm holy. For some of us who've been on the path a while, the path itself becomes another possession. All of it has to go. And I'm going to warn you, some of you may have already experienced this. If you start to think you're holier than thou, the mother will smack you up the side of the head, and you will probably have a worldly experience where you're totally humiliated and crushed. Have you ever had that happen? And you get to see, oh, how detached are you really? Don't try to be a spiritual person. Be Brahma. Remember, you are that ground being. Nobody ever. Okay, we'll end here tonight. Oh, before we do, a couple housekeeping things. Next week will be our last class of the year. I think it's what, the 16th? And then we will return the first Thursday after we start up on the 2nd. So I think that first Thursday is the 6th. So we'll have class next week, and then we won't have class again until the 6th of January. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jim.